Shri Yantra.
The most closed and the most advanced practice that exists.
This is the level that reveals to you the entire dimension, the most profound part of the universe.
What exactly will a person gain?
This is the knowledge after which you no longer need to search for anything. This is beyond the mind. This is beyond energy. In other words, you act in a strict reality at that level, which is generally inaccessible in most cases. A closed practice is not just for nothing. Yes, a cause, a reason. If a person becomes dangerous to reality, then reality destroys them. No one is allowed, without some crazy preparation, diving into the body of consciousness, into its configuration, into its form, and studying it.
And some people say you have a gift from God. Why don't you share this gift? You should share this gift with us. How do you react to things like that?
Well, first of all, it's not a gift from God. This is work. It's quite a lot of work that I've done throughout my conscious life. Conscious, as aware as I was. Yes, no, there is no gift. Just, at some point, every person makes a decision about what they live for, what they feed their body for, why they wake up every morning, why they buy clothes for themselves, all of that. Mostly people find very mundane, understandable things, socially approved things. At one point, I chose something that was completely disapproved. As much as it could be disapproved of, that's how much society disapproved of it. What do you mean?
Disapproved thing?
Self-study and God are disapproved. Studying oneself at the level of energy, studying, the very term God in general. Is he there or not there? How do you interact with him? And do other people interact with him correctly? Or are they mistaken? So that's the essence.
And why is it disapproved? You see, people tell you that you're doing nonsense.
Well, of course, I was born in the Soviet Union, and that didn't exist there. And the events that happened to me, the effects that occurred in my life, it's clear to me that the world is not as it's described to me. What are they telling me about him? And when I told those around me that I wanted to know about this, they said, no, you have to study, work, reproduce, and die. It's not on that list. And to comprehend your inner world, nobody needs that.
And how do you feel about it? So you've spent a lot of time and effort, or rather, I love it. I invested in figuring out how all of this works, to find some complex answers for myself. Well, you were doing it primarily for yourself, right?
I didn't know how complicated they were. I just wanted to find those answers. And I put everything on the line. I put my career on the line, even though I had a pretty good job that allowed me in the end to travel. I initially understood that I wasn't going to stay there. I went there just to make some money, because any step out of the house means that you start paying for yourself. It was obvious that when I had accumulated some material wealth, I realized that basically it would be enough for me for a certain period of my life, so I went and quit my job. I told my parents that I'm going to India for 6 months.
What kind of call did you feel inside you that made you say, that's it, I'm quitting and going?
You know, it wasn't so much a call as it was an absolute impossibility to pretend that it didn't exist. Because when you see something and I was popping out of my body, I was traveling in multidimensionality, even though I didn't have that word in my head yet. Multidimensionality, I didn't understand where I was traveling, but I absolutely knew that it was real. And when I saw my body from the outside, when I saw the room where my body was lying, when there were certain experiences without leaving the body, I encountered effects that were inexplicable and unacceptable in that society. There were certain experiences without leaving the body. I encountered effects that were inexplicable and unacceptable in that society. I was in, and these effects were not given as a gift. I got these effects were practiced. With the help of the information that was obtained from books, the first seed that was planted in my mind was that the world is not as it seems. These were the sessions of Kashpirovsky, Alan Chumak, Yuri Longo, and I still remember them, the ones that suddenly crossed out all my ideas about the world. So I was raised exclusively within the framework of the Soviet Union. We're building a bright future, communism, all that stuff. And at some point, suddenly it turned out that we didn't know what we were building. Now we're just charging jars with water. I didn't know how to do anything back then. I couldn't do anything. I looked at it like this. So all this time I was being deceived. Cool. Then I started digging myself. And as the Union was falling apart, as the market for all kinds of literature emerged, the market for all kinds of literature, I came across books that had practices in them. And I started trying out these practices. And at some point, the practice yielded results.
By the way, that's an Interesting opinion. I heard from one master and he said this is all about the times. When people fell off the stage during Kasparovsky's sessions, that was stage hypnosis. He says, what? Do you think they were hypnotizing people? Well, I mean, were they entertaining people that way? It was such a big program. I don't know where it came from. It's unlikely it was some kind of, like some secret government decided to do this. But conditionally, the country was in one system and the country changed its system. It had to be tough. It was tough. Probably the masses are reprogramming people for a new way of life. And they did it just on TV.
So they managed to reprogram me in such a way.
What do you think about this version? It's kind of on the edge of conspiracy theory, but it seems like there might have been a big demand for people not to completely lose their minds. So they did it this way.
No, I still see processes happening from the side of the special services. I'm not ready to say that it's the state security services. So these are just some very highly educated people. They make certain injections into the space that catch the attention of many people. So they shift the public's attention. They redirect the crowd's focus. They manage attention, of course. And I know what power is hidden in that attention. So we perceive the world basically through just one mechanism. It's about the direction of our attention. Where do we direct our attention? Our consciousness flows there. Accordingly, when the crowd's attention is switched to a pre-thought out scheme, then people are put into the system, into a stall. And I'm ready to agree with that. But back then I was a child. I didn't understand anything at all. The only thing that came to my mind is that all this time, either they were hiding from me that this is happening, or they were deceiving me. Because when those shows were on, I had no effects at all. I didn't fall off the stage. I don't know, my third hand didn't grow back. But when I started teaching myself from books, that's when the effects started. And then I couldn't be swayed from this path anymore because I was convinced that this is not a performance. I became convinced that it really exists. And the fact that during this transitional period, it was probably some kind of program from some special services, I didn't even realize it myself.
At some point, did you perhaps feel the call at a pretty young age? And you realized that the world isn't quite arranged the way it is, and you felt a strong urge to go find answers to those questions. Why did you go to India?
Because at that time, it was the most mysterious country. Reaching me as a person who is in Moscow, there were many wonders told by people, many mystical stories. And also, I determined for myself that if there is such a place on our earth, if all this knowledge and skills are preserved there, and people are demonstrating them, then I need to go there. That's it. No need to keep bubbling in this trendy modern stuff, because there are no answers there. There was more and more chaos in my head. Moreover, some masters allowed me to learn certain methods, and they really worked, but there was no main answer. Methods, and they really worked, but there was no main answer. So what is my place here? Why did I come here? Who am I? Then my gaze turned to India because this place, this country was the most, kind of mysterious. Well, there were people who came there, Sashavav, people like fathers and grandmothers from Roman Mahash, telling some magical stories, and I was like, well, okay, why not? That means I need to go there. You mentioned that at some point you felt disappointment there. That's right, because when I imagined India based on the stories of other people, it was something beautiful, something that finally reaching it, you can finally breathe out. And when I naturally traveled by air there, of course, I started visiting all sorts of communities. And I started to see that it's just a show. The first place I flew to was Uravina Matra Mandir. Is this what Sri Aurobindo built together with the mother? So what's her name, Mother? I touched it all with my own hands. With some abilities, those intuitive ones, and it just didn't feel right. And when I was observing all of this from the inside, it just didn't come together with the picture I had in my mind. The picture I had in my mind. Then Amma came nearby. In Pondicherry, I think the city was called. Amma came with performances, hugging everyone, speaking to each person in their own language. She answered the question he had when he approached her, even though he didn't voice it. Well, when I took part in all of this, yes, she speaks in different languages. There are about 3-4 words. And before you approach her, before she hugs you, you have to rasp. 50 of her assistants will ask you, what the hell are you doing here? and you just say it out of politeness.
Then she'll tell you, open up.
And then she speaks to you in broken Russian. 4 words on the topic that you can somehow jumble together. So, with what you managed to tell 50 times while they let you through to her.
And so, when you saw all of this, India is seen as enlightened but is dirty, with sacred spots and masters. Personally, when you arrive in India, it's filthy. Really, there are people who are practically going to the bathroom right there. Well, in such places you go, it's clear that there are sacred spots. There are very powerful places, and there are very strong masters. There are places. But overall, if you look at it, ancient knowledge. It holds super ancient knowledge about enlightenment and creates a strange impression. But if you dig deeper into the essence, you stayed there, meaning serious things happened to you. Tell me about it.
You know, when I was observing all of this, how with my European appearance, I was pulled out of the crowd again by the temple servants. Their assistants dragged me right to the center, right to the middle, through the line, through other people. Everyone was standing in line and they let me through because, because I had money. As soon as I was led into the most sacred places, a person would immediately run up with a little tray like, come on, come on. Later, when I was leaving, the one who dragged me through the whole crowd ran up like, well, I was the one who guided you, like, oh, come on, come on. It's not that it outraged me, so I understood perfectly well that, okay, that's how it is for them. Fast track to enlightenment, yeah, but I agree, please. I'll put the money on the tray, and I'll give the money to the guide. But where's the knowledge? Who will teach me what? And at some point, I really turned back to those organizers and honestly said, I've been through all of that, so what should I do next? They said, well, just sit down and pray. I was like, really?
I arrived, I could do it at home.
I could do that in church too. In Russia, just sit down and pray. He says, pray to the saint. You came to him. Here, go ahead, be filled with it. And there are people sitting next to me with these empty, spaced out eyes, just sitting there. I looked at all of this and said, no, that's definitely not what I want. I want to know, I don't want to, go into a stupor because there are no answers in a stupor. You went in there, yes, right there. And then I went out, pay for the hotel, pay for the food, extend your visa. So this stupor doesn't help you at all. And I'm like, no, I need knowledge. I continued to study the internet from India, looking for where the real masters are. That's where at least someone, in my opinion, then fell on martial arts and healing. Because when a person comes to a healer, they don't learn, they just get results. So healer?
Yes, there's either a result or there isn't.
Well, obviously, but if they come, there must be something there. And I started to slowly move in that direction, where there's not just this blind worship, sit and pray, but where is the person who masters the art and demonstrates it? And after that, the next phase of my wandering among the masters began. And so during this period of time, actually, I met with another master who indeed came to Moscow. They rented a space and he demonstrated the energy and then left. And his message was like this: develop yourself. Why are you tormenting me with questions? Go, yes, see for yourself. Go, yes, study for yourself. Achieve a state where you can perceive this. And that's it. Why are you tormenting me with this question? This won't help you at all. I looked at it and thought, yeah, that's a good approach. And I continued to move forward in a similar way. I have an extensive period of training in various schools and institutions. Recently, there was a retreat in Sochi where I demonstrated the basic things from Tai Chi, which are absolutely effective, absolutely applicable, but they absolutely don't provide answers. Who are you? Although if you use them, you find the answer much faster in its entirety when you work.
Can you explain what this practice is? For people who will never go through it, look.
I think everyone knows when some Eastern master just moves their hands through the air. And it's believed that you need to memorize these movements, repeat them like 100 million times, once, and then it will dawn on you. What is it? When I got to the school where they taught these things, I was lucky to have a great master. He studied in China with masters who demonstrated a very high level of art. And he immediately said, guys, this is all waving your hands in the air. This is all a performance. You need to approach it from the other side. Shift focus through your body. You move your attention through your body. And he taught, specifically about moving attention through the body, taking matter into account. If I bend my hand like this, my attention gets stuck. In this bend, if I round it, my attention flows easily. So in this bend, if I round it, then the attention flows easily. When you move it, focus on energy interaction. Hands adjust naturally. Your attention, their attention, and then you start interacting on an energy level. And your hands adjust to those energies on their own. So you're not moving with your hands, you're moving with your attention and your energy. And the hands are just like conductors of these processes. It's not the same at all as when you just memorize some movements.
What does this give you in practice? Awareness of.
You start to study yourself to understand what you represent, that I'm not just this matter, but that there's something else that has an impact, yet you can't see it with your eyes. It does give you. And why is this not visualization? Because when you start working with a partner, by influencing their energy, you can see how their physical body begins to move. So you don't tell him where you need to move. We have the lower dantian, middle dantian, and upper dantian. And if you learn to connect with another person through the lower dantian, you can lift them up like this and roll them back. A person falls on their butt if they don't resist. If he starts to resist, you won't be able to push him over that easily. But if he stands relaxed, everything works perfectly. It works very easily on drunk people because they don't resist. It's hard for them to resist. But this is not for combat application. I'll say it again. For combat application, you need at least 20 years of practice. I did this for 2 years, about 2.5. And so when you study that, there is something within you that can and is capable of influencing the outside world.
In physics?
Yes, and it isn't registered by the senses. It is only registered by your concentrated attention. That's when the spectrum of your perception starts to grow in a way that is truly applicable, like when you're sitting and then you went into everyday life.
When you teach this, what are you saying that you will apply this in practice like how it is in life? What will this give you? As the students ask, what are we going to do with this?
The people who come to me for sushi mostly already know exactly why they're here. Well, because it's obvious that when you have more abilities, you have more opportunities. That's really great. When you can do something that others can't, and you actively use it. For example, what I use the knowledge for about how to properly build my own. The physical body is relative to energy, so that you can channel much more energy through your body. When your muscles are tense, cramped, and twisted, energy won't flow through them quickly and effectively. When your muscles are relaxed and loose, when you understand these processes of movement after you've studied them, then you can accelerate very powerful energy flows. Accordingly, the more powerful energy flows that go through you, the more effective you are in any endeavor. Energy. Energy has several levels. This is the level of physics, the material level, the level of the psyche, and there, basically, it's already quite well studied by psychology and psychiatry. And that's it. And the level of energy, each subsequent level is much more powerful than the previous one. For example, a physically strong person can be morally destroyed if they are weak morally. And this really shows during championships. So a person can train for, I don't know, several years, but right before the event, someone can say something to them like, yeah, he just panicked and that was it. He lost. So when a coach works with an athlete, this mental component is very significant. There is a level of energy. So when you are strong at the level of energy, it's already very difficult for anyone to do anything to you physically or mentally. Layer affects energy. The layer you possess influences everything before. Energy is always more primary. When studying energy, a person uncovers abilities. Energy is always more primary. And that's why, when a person studies themselves, they uncover abilities, they discover possibilities, and it will amplify everywhere. It opens up the possibilities that we have there, and it doesn't matter where he applies them. It will have a very strong amplifying effect everywhere.
When I was preparing for this interview, one of our producers said that the Shri Yantra is the most secretive and advanced practice that exists.
Yes, that's right.
And we will definitely talk about this today. This is actually the topic of our episode today. I want to start a bit broader. What is a yantra? Because for many people, it's just an image. Tell me, in a few words, how you understand what a yantra is, and then we'll move on to the Shri Yantra.
Our physical body has a shape, and it's obvious because we perceive this shape with all our senses, feelings, Our psyche also has a shape, its personality, temperament, character. And to say that you can somehow draw it geometrically is already quite complicated. But same time shape exists, is described. Our energy has a configuration, and these configurations have different degrees of transformation. It's the same as how a person transforms from an embryo into what we are now. So indeed, our energy body also has a configuration, and all of this is vessels for consciousness. And it turns out that consciousness also has a configuration, and the Shri Yantra is a configuration of consciousness. It's like when it was forbidden to poke around in corpses to see what was inside. It was forbidden to poke around in corpses to see what's inside. At the level of consciousness, it's still forbidden. So no one is allowed to, without some crazy preparation, to delve into the body of consciousness, into its configuration, into its shape, and study it.
Many types, Kenter. Why are there different ones? What is the purpose of that?
Yeah. Look, there's this word consciousness. It's what allows us to perceive the surrounding reality. It allows us to be alive, conscious beings. And this form has various external signs. Like any person, they're unique. External signs. Just like any person, they are unique. That's exactly why you can pay at the store with your face. You look at the camera, and that's it, because it's unique. And consciousness is also unique. It consists of a set of qualities defined from a set of vibrations, from a set of primordial vibrations. So these are the vibrations from which all of reality is woven. There are these component parts. So in our consciousness, there are also component parts. And what is that? Shri Yantra.
Well, let's talk about Shri Yantra before that. What is consciousness as you get?
Consciousness is that God, the original creator. This is consciousness. Originally manifested in each of us, originally manifested everything. There is this mantra, Har Har Mahadi. Each of us is Mahade. In each of us, a particle of God is manifested. What is God? What shape does it have? It has no form, nothing at all. It simply exists. This is the purest perception. And so, as soon as you start to have limitations of this pure perception, you begin to transform into some kind of separate, as if separate being. So, a being that forgets that it is originally itself. There is only one being here that plays with itself. And for this game to happen, his scattered particles are forced to forget that they are this being. Otherwise, no game.
Let's simplify it so it's clear for our conversation. Consciousness is a particle of the creator that forgot that it is the creator. And it takes on different forms. That is, into different bodies in order to incarnate in these densities, or in matter.
Yes, it studies itself. What forms can I manifest?
Yes, what can Yantra manifest now? There are different Yantras.
Yes. Naturally, there are various forms of consciousness. And these pictures you mentioned, they're just something like symbols, nothing more than that. People pray to these symbols, which is really not serious at all, only a formality. That means to write from the word God, starting with B, or G, to circle it and start praying to it. It's just roughly the same as those pictures made of triangles, petals, and squares. It's just symbolism. And when the seers practiced studying reality, they encountered a huge number of forces that are manifested in this world. These forces consisted of certain energetic configurations. These forces were gathered from certain parts of the original. So, when this first unmanifested principle began to take on forms, it started to divide. At first, there was a division into Shiva and Shakti, or you can use other terms, that is first into two, and then the next is Rajas. If I'm not mistaken, there are five, that's five, the 5 elements, 5, and you can find a lot of information about all of that. In the end, it divided, and 64 forms appeared, and Shakti, that is 64. The form of energy from which everything here is made, it all starts from my finger and ends with my consciousness, which also has a body. And depending on that, what do you consider important for yourself? So when a person says, I am this and that, but I am not like that, you are rejecting a part of yourself. You said, I am not like that, which means you have already denied the manifestation of some part of yourself and chosen a few specific pieces. And in our space, there are all sorts of beings made up of certain parts of this yantra from specific parts of these original energies. And accordingly, that's why forms appear, various forms of yantra, which are incomplete. Incomplete. Incomplete meaning they don't contain all the energies. They only have some, let's say this. Well, let's go by the numbers so we don't complicate things. There are 63 forms of the mind, that is 63 forms of energy with which everything consists, which, when merged into a whole, indeed form the 64th form of Shakti, a complete one. To put it in simpler terms, we have a rainbow, which is originally white light. If we break this white light into parts, we get 7 colors separately. So, we take the 7 colors, mix them, and we get white. If we take the 7 colors and remove, say, 2, we won't get white anymore. We'll get some other shade. It's the same with yantra. If you take the whole configuration, all the shades, all the colors, all 7, we won't get white anymore. We'll get some other shade. With 63, the 64th form manifests everything. Rejecting forms a non-white result. Let's say there aren't just 7 but 63, you get the 64th, which is that very form where everything is manifested. If you reject something, you also get a form, but it won't be white in color anymore. It will be something different, some other body of consciousness. And that's why various yantras exist, like the yantras of Ganesha, the yantras of Saraswati, yantras of centers, energetic yantras, various manifestations, like Vishnu, Brahma. So these are not complete yantras of various manifestations, like Vishnu, Brahma. So these are not complete yantras. But at the same time, everything is in perfect order there. They still form, this is unity, Shri Yantra. What is its beauty? What is its power? It's a configuration where all facets of reality are used. Awareness makes one forget consciousness, unable to perceive it, but can doubt senses. As a particle of consciousness, he naturally forgets that he is a particle of consciousness. He has no way to perceive this, no way to reach it. But he has the ability to doubt that everything here is exactly as it is perceived by the senses.
That's interesting. What will you say? Do you often ask such a question? How often do you doubt? Also write to us about this.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will write about this.
Well, that's interesting. Let's take a look. Come on. We're going to have a little debate. Come on. More than half of the comments from those who write will be from people doubting that this is reality. Or less. It works a little differently. That's why I'm with you.
More.
Good. So let's check it out at the same time. Write it down. Let's return to yantras.
There are these configurations.
Configurations, consciousness, and this configuration you have, so you're saying there are different energies. The units, what is this configuration made of? Can you give an example of one part of this configuration? It's hard to give examples here, but I can make an association. So, separately, for example, the units, what is this configuration made of? Can you give an example of one part of this composite configuration?
You know, it's really hard to give such examples here, but I can make some kind of association. So people are probably familiar with what a hologram is. A hologram is when light passes through a certain number of completely flat transparent plates and creates an illusion. A yantra is those very separate plates through which the light of the original consciousness, passes and forms the physical body. The energetic structure, your abilities, your traits, your qualities, your personality.
Everything is written there. Here is a kind of lens. The light goes through it and takes on some form.
Yes, and if this lens is somewhat crumpled, it's distorted. That's the final form. It's also a little distorted, and we are all distorted forms here. Why? The Kali Yuga.
Okay.
Time and place and space.
For such configurations, which are far from holy, so to speak. Well, yes, that is roughly speaking a distortion. This is not some kind of negative connotation here. This is simply there.
It's a statement of fact.
And the Shri Yantra, a composite of forms light passes, the lens. A composite of these many forms through which light passes.
This lens shapes your identity. That determines who you are here, what you can do.
And there is a practice that you provide. So what is the essence of this practice then? Because right now it sounds like some kind of theoretical knowledge. So we have a viewer looking at this like, well, there are some images, okay, there are some energies, and there's something about Lenin. It's clear that energy and consciousness still take on some form. So it decided to take the form of a globe. There it is, round with an ocean and so on. If we simplify it, yes, a person has 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, that's a form. More or less the same for everyone, for all people.
That's too simple. It only literally takes 1 or 2 steps to address this, because there are qualities that are hidden from view. There are people, for example, the HR department, where a person is assumed to be able to see these qualities. Assess if someone will manage. What are you evaluating? Another one comes in, you look and think they won't manage, if you're a specialist in this field. Again, what are you looking at? By the cut of the eyes, by the color of the skin? No, you look at something, at some internal qualities of a person. Here it is. When you ask yourself the question, why? Elon Musk built rockets, created cars, developed computers, and artificial intelligence. Why can he do this while someone else cannot? What's so special about him? If you dig into his genetics, you're probably not going to find it there. I remember Lenin's brain was studied, sliced to find genius, but it wasn't in the matter. It's an inner strength that moves the world. They sliced the sausages looking for where that genius was, but it's not in the matter. It's this certain inner strength that a person has, the kind that can move the world. This is his consciousness, his configuration of consciousness. So, in his consciousness, there are more of these little triangles, petals, manifested than in others. That's why his abilities are much broader than those of an average person. An average person uses 1 or 2 of the 64 minds in their life. We understand what each mind is responsible for. These 64 minds, throughout their entire life, without even realizing that they exist within them.
And do we understand what each of these minds is responsible for? Of course, of course.
There are texts. There is a description of each mind. These are absolutely living energy flows. Flows, streams. I don't know, it's like a constantly blooming flower, some kind of whirlwinds of energy. So it's something that your brain will be chewing on for half your life. And waiting for him to chew it over for you is just wasting time for nothing. You live with it, you absorb it, and it dances with you. It's a dance of some incredibly geometric shapes, but they're not primitive shapes. It's a wild energy. This is what each mind is. And you know exactly where it is located, you can direct your attention there, and you can awaken it.
This is the key.
If someone helps you, this is the key moment.
You don't just know where it is. You can awaken that energy.
Of course, you touch it, it dances with you, you connect with it. Emotional bursts jump up. So everything reacts, physics reacts, psychology reacts, energy reacts.
And so, having awakened some of these energies, we're not even talking about it right now. Probably about everything. I don't even know if it's possible.
We're talking again, but we'll be at the end. Right now, we're going to awaken this layer by layer. 9 layers.
Let's then, well, I just want to understand, I want to understand you awakened it, and what do you get in your physical life?
Whatever you want, you get. You become that very Elon Musk who, what did you have in mind? What came to your head? Then you start to succeed.
The entire space is woven from certain energies. Yes, these energies have certain characteristics. Let's call it that.
Very narrow characteristics.
Yes, very narrow traits. And altogether they provide the right combination from which, in fact, matter is woven. Certain elements of matter have a slightly larger set of characteristics. From this spectrum, basically, yes, and further. You're talking about this. What? You can do with your consciousness through certain practices with the help of a guide. Well, because it's very hard to get there on your own. Practically impossible. You can learn to separate these qualities of energies that are within you to understand where they are. And the most important thing is to awaken them, to reveal them, and to make them work more actively.
Yes, but still, I would slightly correct that. It's not about separating, but about connecting with yourself.
Well, what do you want to highlight first? You understand this is the left hand, and this is the right hand, right?
Yes, but that's not crucial. So the main task is to feel them out, to awaken them, and then not to let them fall asleep. So it's about constantly dancing with them, constantly interact with them, and elevate yourself to a level that satisfies you. Simply put,
before we started this topic, we mentioned that this is actually a closed practice. A closed practice. It's not just for nothing. And when I ask such questions, very down-to-earth ones, what exactly will a person gain?
Opportunities. All opportunities.
Why is it a closed practice? It just happened that this knowledge didn't come out. Is there some reason for that?
Yes, reason. Reason, if a person becomes dangerous to reality, and at the same time their power is immense, then reality will destroy them. Reality will not give person opportunity. upset the balance and stay alive. And here, if the person disrupts the balance beyond their own endurance, then reality deals with him. If he disrupts the balance within his capabilities, reality can't do anything to him.
That's interesting. So we're talking about fact that since reality is woven from certain energies, certain frequencies, and you can tune into these frequencies, in BME, I won't say the word control, that's incorrect, but rather interact. To form, yes. So, these things can also be directed towards shaping the reality around you.
The realization of one's whims.
Yes, but a whim comes from the mind and stems from the ego.
What difference it make where it comes from?
There's a big difference because, well, as I understand it, maybe it's wrong that if a person acts from their ego principles, like wanting to conquer the world there. Yes, and that's exactly when that mechanism you're talking about will kick in. That if a person acts from ego motivation, they come from actually understanding who he is, why she is here, what he is fulfilling the higher will for, but he just wants. I don't know the most beautiful girl because in his class everyone kind of bullied him. And he gains a lot of power and starts to change his motivation very quickly.
I just saw an absolutely really funny meme today. When there's a wishing well drawn, there's a line of people waiting, and a guy approaches this wishing well and says, "I want to find my love." And a girl appears, he kisses her, and they both walk away from the well together. So he looks back at the wishing well, seeing someone fly away in a starship. Another comes with a bag on a money-filled cart. He looks at the girl. Wow. There's someone in a Superman suit flying, and someone else is coming with a bag, riding a cart full of money. And he looks at that girl like, I missed out. I missed out. Yep, yeah. Well, you see, when a person has no resources, no opportunities, it seems to him that, well, if he had them, then he would save everyone. But no, you wouldn't save anyone. He thinks that, well, if he were in that position, then he would save everyone. No, you won't save anyone. Desires fulfilled, excess harms. The first thing you'll rush to do is satisfy your desires, your whims. And if a person goes overboard in this regard and disrupts the balance and harmony, reality will crush him more than he can handle. It crushes him to a flatbread. If he disrupts the harmony, the balance of the world according to his abilities, reality can't do anything to him. No way. And we can talk about these things for a long time and with great effort. But how does this look in real life? A person who has grasped the yantra, having come into contact with all forms of Shakti, embodies these settings in the world. He says it simply. He doesn't even need to say it out loud, he just does it on the level of his consciousness. An apartment for 20, for 200 million. And reality starts to shape that apartment for him. He doesn't know how he's going to get it. He doesn't know where to direct his energy or how to move the planets around, right? He doesn't need to know any of that. He simply sends a vibration into reality. At those frequencies, at those access codes that exist at the level of consciousness and reality, that's okay.
Here's a cool example. Let's just take a look inside, how it works. So, a person is sitting there thinking, I want an apartment for 200 million.
Then he comes to you, or to some other master, trying to understand how it works. But there are many levels: physical, psychological, energetic, and the level of consciousness.
And so he starts to study how it works. So, what paths does he go through? What happens inside? How much time does he need to spend on this?
It all depends on what level he tries to secure that apartment for himself. If he tries to do it from a physical level, yeah, he'll wear himself out. It's obvious that usually the average person just doesn't have enough life to earn it at the physical level. I ask, there are no such chances at the physical level, so you immediately understand that it's unrealistic. I'll probably get a little apartment for 7 million, or maybe for 67, somewhere deep in the Moscow region. But maybe it will work if you approach these processes from a psychological level, right? You understand. So, career, determination, getting along with everyone, pushing things around. You start to think on a larger scale. You no longer think like a robot, like I need to take action, stand at the machine, stand at the machine. So you start to rise to a more dynamic layer, and you understand, I'll negotiate with this one and with that one, for example. Here is the career. Here is the career, the business, the partnership, the organization. Well, it kind of builds up for you. You say, well, approximately, yeah, in about 15 years, probably, if I don't get sidetracked, if I don't choose something else along the way, there won't be inflation. There will be inflation, yes, but still all of this can be played out. So if my psyche can handle all of this, then I'll have it. Well, 15 years, of course, you'll have to live only for that. And not everyone will agree to live for 10, 15 years with one specific goal. These units of people, there is only one champion, even though there are many contenders. It should be a different mindset. To be intellectual, there are even tests, psychological tests. It's like, are you destined to be a businessman? If you let him down, you won't be able to survive in this world. You won't be able to do entrepreneurship. Your psyche doesn't work that way.
Yeah. There's tolerance for risk. There, that's it.
That's right, yeah. So you have to be unbreakable, unyielding, and determined. For you, all these crises that an ordinary person just breaks over their knee, you have to handle about 10 of those a day. That's in ramped down, but it's becoming that way. So you understand that if you live a quarter of your life, that's how it will be. A quarter of your life. That way you'll have it. There's energy. That's exactly it, to open up, accelerate, direct, and shape. I'm burning out, I'm moving, and everything just kind of goes. And basically, well, there. About a year spent on extrasensory perception. A year spent on transformation configurations. Just a couple more years. I'm just moving towards this goal with these skills and opportunities, and I will have it all.
This is for you. Doing something in physics while still moving towards these goals. What are you doing physically?
We can't move forward. Well, you see, a person can't move forward if they forget a part of themselves. So people who have forgotten their psyche and just went purely into spirituality, they mostly end up in a madhouse. This is exactly to the point that it's not a magic pill. It's a lot of work, and it's hard work, not just sitting on the couch closed off. Yes, it's the same thing. I can't, for example, take my skeletal bones and go to the bathroom while leaving my muscles, and my brain on the chair. I can't take my brain and put it to sleep. I will lie down and sleep completely. So we are whole, we are a trinity. The question is just at what level you start interacting with reality. If you interact with reality from an energetic level, you see, like this, I'm moving forward. I stand up, my heart closes, something's off, I adjust, I try to play it out, I turn on my extrasensory perception, I turn on my intuition. I need to look different, for example. I changed, my heart is burning, that's it, I'm heading out, driving. When talking with a partner, I look at the energy, at the channels, and I notice that they are getting blocked. I mean, some nonsense, no. Right now, events are closing off, the possibility is closing, fears are blocking. You remove them in parallel, yes. So you observe how the energy moves and dance along with that energy, touching reality. And so when you see that the channel has closed, and you're like, wait, I'm missing something, some moment, from this side. And with that, the energy started flowing, it picked up, I started to confront my fears more, I became more expressive. Well, you act completely differently there, meaning you take action. Touching reality, at that level, which is generally inaccessible in most cases, it's like, I walked into the room, your eyes are closed, and you're trying to do something in there to somehow organize the activity. And you walked into the same room and your eyes are open. 1, 2, 3, everything's ready. But you still move as a whole. Energy doesn't move separately from the physical. It's important to understand, of course. And then suddenly, it turns out that there is an even more closed level. And in that level, there's nothing to do without extrasensory perception. You won't survive there, you won't get out of it. These will all be your fantasies, your hallucinations, and so on. That's why there's a clearly defined system for how to reach that level, how to at least feel like a perceiver in it. There is the first level, practical energy. The second stage of transformation, shedding the cocoon. The third stage of transformation, turning yourself into a pillar of fire. This is an energetic configuration. This is exactly how we change ourselves. We'll talk about him. And with all of this, you have enough opportunities to access the level of your consciousness. And there you act completely differently. You don't need to move anything anywhere. You don't need to negotiate with anything or anyone. You don't need to toil away like that. You're saying, so what do I need in everything that's manifested? Let it be there, I don't know. An apartment for 200 discussing her. So that's it. I'm starting to vibrate with this request and reality itself. People, events, situations, They just literally grab me like this by the collar and start leading me to this apartment. The only question is whether I will resist or not. That's how I will resist. I don't trust my path. If I'm not like that, if I clearly understand that this is my request, and right now reality is leading me there on the shortest path, then despite everything and against all odds, I keep going. Oh, I stepped in some poop, no big deal, I'm going. Oh, it started to rain, no big deal, I'm going. Oh, here's my little apartment.
At the same time, all the other three components,
They are moving.
they need to move. So you can't just lie under the drip and expect to get to this apartment. Well, conditionally, yes.
Well, conditionally, yes.
You can't be surrounded by fears, resentments, and traumas there. The whole world. On a psychological level, you have this energy, it won't pass, and you'll end up consuming yourself.
You won't be able to practice at this level, basically. When I first tried to teach her, of course, I listened to a huge number of lectures about what not to do. To no one, for no reason, under no circumstances. Then after some time, when my inner level, my mastery was growing, I lived to see the day when Shan said, look, everything you know, you can use it according to your conscience, but don't forget how all of this is arranged. But don't forget that how all of this is arranged. I naturally ran to try it out on one of my acquaintances who was also practicing in parallel, studying energy, and in general had some kind of foundation to touch these processes. I'm so tired of showing him this. It really wasn't a practice, it was just violence against each other. So we sat down and I said, okay, let's find it together. We found the first shaft, felt it. I'm helping him awaken it, how it works. I raise my shaft and ignite his shaft. It ignites in resonance. And he has the opportunity to feel it when they are all asleep and haven't yet noticed it. It will just float around like that. He finds it in his field, so I ignited it and it rose. He hadn't seen it like this before at night, just because you didn't have such a process. Although she was present in him, the first was excellent, the second was wonderful, the third.
Unraveled.
Yes. Subtitles made by Dima Torzok. He's gone. His resource couldn't handle it. This is too much, and I was pushing into each shaft, and I'm already starting to get tired of this, and he keeps falling asleep. I saw that without preparation, my preparation, a person fades away. He can't function delicately. His consciousness is crystallized, still, constricted. He can't operate at a delicate level. His consciousness is too crystallized, too still, too tight. It gets transmitted. Too still, too constricted. But still it gets transmitted. So when I stepped out in front of a large audience, I said, look, this is what I can do. I presented it step by step, just like I received this knowledge. But there was a nuance that I carry within myself. And I occasionally talk about it. It's like giving people a little bit of space not to get stuck in dogmas. Because in any case, the system is already some kind of dogma. It is already some kind of clearly verified one. You'll be moving along it. In principle, many people have gone through it. Everything works. But if we were to follow it, nothing would be shown. It's closed off. If I had followed it, I wouldn't show. Closed teachings. These are closed teachings in paramparas. Traditional knowledge, which is contained not only in my parampara, but also in others. They are contained in the lines of transmission, but so far no one can find anything on the internet. Yeah, we even conducted an experiment. There's a person with whom I work on manifesting this knowledge. Someone asked, what's next? I replied, the next stage is the Shri Yantra. Publish, what are we going to talk about? Interviews, dialogues? I said, well, look, the next stage after the fire column is already the Shri Yantra. So, what is it? I looked the internet and yes, there it is. Well, there it is. I said, come on, I'll just show you because, well, it's impossible to explain this. I said, show me one shaft. We met, we sat down and I showed him that shaft. Organizational matters. We just sat down carefully and I showed him that one shaft. He was like, now I have an understanding of how to search for this. What is it? And we parted ways again. Each of us went to take care of our own things. After some time, after sifting through everything he could possibly sift through, he came back to us, listening, and I couldn't understand. He was like, where are the others? What does it look like? How? Come on, just show me everything already. Smoking, let's go. And at the same time, there was a retreat happening in Sochi and nobody knew about it. I was also teaching Shri Yantra individually to this person. And just as I showed him all of this, when he saw all of this, he Almost, he says, you did this yourself. It's unreal. No way. I said, I genuinely tried to do all of this to reach it on my own. Unreal. Well, I said, you see,
How can a person understand that they are ready for these tasks and practices?
it's personal. It's a completely different process. It all depends on the person's own position. Here, when I got there, the temple, if my memory serves me right, it's a bit different now. So, to speak, events get blurred, but I was into energy work, I was into extrasensory perception. I knew that there was a tradition. I knew that I needed to chant some endless number of mantras. I heard about that. I knew that I had to attend some certain endless number of rituals and perform them. And so, as a culmination of all this preparation, like, I don't know, like in special forces, probably training and martial arts, there were massages and marmotherapy and Sanskrit and Jyotish. So when you absorbed all of these, the crown of the last, the summit, the initiation, the core, the philosopher's stone is the knowledge of the yantra. And I was just starting my training there, and at some point, Ashan says, on such and such a date, I will initiate my students into this knowledge. I was like, damn, but I'm not even a student. So you could either study there or have the status of a student. That was also very important. So you can practice energy work without having the status of a student to develop this extrasensory perception, all of that. But without the status of a student, everything that was traditional, everything that was truly orthodox, there was no access to it about these people. And he just talks about it. And he says, let's go. Mantra, I will initiate. I had no idea what that was. But when I absolutely heard that particular phrase, I had no doubt at all, completely. Wuti, I'll wait until the next time it happens. I absolutely understood that I would get to this practice. I didn't know how I would get to it. I didn't understand how I would manage to prepare all of this. Well, it was obvious that there was no way, just no way. But this is my inner self. Unyielding. This core said, I will do it, I just have to get there, and that's it. I approach Shan and say, Shan, I want to come to the initiation. Is it burning? And are you my... I say, no. I say, I don't know how, but I'm here, I'm going. There was something in me that just wouldn't let me doubt. It just wouldn't allow it. That was unacceptable for me. It was really something on a soul level, probably. And so when I came to this practice, Ashan started to pass it on. He started showing these minds. He started showing this configuration. A couple of days later, I said the following phrase to him. He was sitting next to me. As we settled in, he was right next to me. And I said, listen, Ashan, I finally, for more than 10 years, maybe even 15 years, I ran around the world, searching for knowledge, searching for meaning. I was looking for the one, the practice that will finally allow me to calm down, that will finally let me exhale and say, I found it. I can finally say that I found the very practice that will allow me to stop searching for anything else, not to run anywhere, not to ask about anything, will allow me to say everything. Now I have no doubts. I don't doubt anything anymore. The person joked. He says, yeah, what kind of practice is that? He found it and he says, I want that too. He says, and I found something like that. You're not really telling it here. So this is the kind of knowledge that reveals all facets, all the most. You don't need to search now. This is indeed the level that opens up the whole facet, all the facets, the whole, the most profound part of the universe. And to explain what this is, I can explain that with my hand. Yeah, that's easy. I can explain how electricity moves through wires, and even that won't be completely full. But to explain what the Shri Yantra is, what consciousness is, this is when you have a mechanism, a practice of remembering your original self, the primal cause. So this is what allows you to realize yourself as a creator. Yes. No. So yeah, we all, Mahadeo, yes, the particle of the creator in each of us. It's just a disturbance in the air, which gives you nothing. It doesn't give you anything at all, except for some kind of calmness that fades away very quickly. When you start to age and die, it's something that truly makes you feel special. Absolutely alive. Not in some half-alive way, not in some doubting, scared, always searching, always in some kind of this. So, to trust or not to trust when you are completely calm, when you just speak. So, all reality is in my hands. And right now, I'm only going to do what truly interests me. Don't forget that you are among Mahadeo, beings just like you. So, as pure and beautiful as possible, but absolutely within the context that you want. I don't know how to find the right words, but it's such a level of awareness. It's such a level of understanding of reality. And it's a technical understanding. It's not like we pray for half our lives and then something opens up. And when you do it once, twice, 3 times, here through interaction, you open up. Here, you accept all of it. I let it in, it worked. You see how everything moves in reality. And when you tell me to go over there, you just go, 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 go. It's like I'm going there on slippery skis instead of trying to climb up on roller skates. I don't know. It's just not going to work for me. And if you don't see these things, then mostly you're just missing the door beside you. You hit the wall, seeing there's a door by you. I'm exaggerating, but this is where the opportunity to be aware of everything opens up for you. And even when I say, for example, I need this, I start moving there and I'm like, oh, here, here, and here, I don't meet these parameters. Right now, I'm quickly adjusting these parameters and passing through. So it's so hard to explain because the level of consciousness is where there is no inner dialogue, where you're not just chatting with yourself. It's beyond the psyche. It's beyond energy. It's when you simply having this configuration just move around. In dimensions, this also needs to be realized. I'm not twisting the world. I'm not transforming it. I'm just moving myself to that point where it all already exists. You don't even need to achieve anything. And the ability to move to that point easily and effortlessly, without causing any outrageous reactions, without triggering any bursts of aggression, without in any way leaving cracked skulls behind you. When a person is stepping over others, when you just go here and then there, here and now, once, and there's nothing else interesting for you here. So where to next? And then to freedom. So you work in a completely different mode.
If we speak in Zealand's terms, you're not playing a role in someone else's movie, in someone else's film. That's how he uses the words. Instead, you actually become the director and move into those films where what you need already exists.
You know, how you can draw an analogy with a movie. You have it on your hard drive. A huge number of movies of all kinds of genres, and you can start any movie at any moment in time. And this is done in such a way that the same thing happens with your life. You manage to live, 50 lives in one, maybe 60. What you usually achieve in your regular mode, you don't. I know, in youth you achieved this in a month. There are a huge number of stories. At least those people who have already received individual initiation from me. So what's happening with these people? They set some kind of goal, and events start to unfold rapidly that are pulling them towards that goal. Here's a person saying, I want this. It's starting to happen to him. And the person is like, wait, but if I go there now, for example, just a little bit, this will disappear from my life or something. Those people will leave my life, and what should I do? Don't go? Then don't go. Absolutely right. And this kind of freedom can initially scare a person a little bit. You see, you don't become a director when you say that, no, you indeed become someone who can move through space at that speed. In most cases, the people around you just can't keep up with you at all. And when a person starts to take advantage of this opportunity, everything that stops him is himself. Due to some of my dependencies of the space he's used to being in, very few people are capable of instantly moving, allowing themselves to do that, crossing out everything they had before. Very few crossing out everything they had before. Very few. That's true, and Yantra gives you the opportunity to do that. When a person realizes that now he can, indeed, my familiar life is on the scales, and this crazy speed. And some end up in such a space, temporary, I'm observing that about them. What? It's like, when you probably win the lottery, And it's like, I hope this doesn't crush me right now. You kind of freeze for a moment. Like, wait, you have to do everything as best as you can, and then you still get swept away. And so the people who gain this knowledge initially, at first they become frozen. Like, wait, why is it all so easy? But why does it all work out like that? Wait, could I have done that? Rushing in may lose friends, but I embrace freedom and change. Listen, what if I rush in there right now, like, those friends, acquaintances, they might drop off. I mean, it's kind of a shame. And then, it's like, that's it. I accept my freedom. I accept that the space I was used to, it just won't hold on. And people just enjoy life. They just enjoy life. And sometimes there's a real situation where a girl, it's been a year since she gained this knowledge. He's quite a wealthy person. She has passive income and she's like, I want to teach yoga, just 3 events. I turned around and just like that, she's already teaching yoga.
So I have a question. When people gain this knowledge, do they do some kind of work? Or is it enough for them to just visualize, let's say, a point and direct energy there? Or what kind of work do they do?
They do the work on the level of yantras, accepting their nature.
Okay.
So you just find it exactly in the mind. The primal cause of everything. Yes. That's the very little mirror that makes you a hologram, like a hologram. Like this. Phew, it's all in you. You've worked through it. Yeah, well, it's clear. You found the primal cause, there's a rule, right? And you removed it. And now your whole configuration is right there, like in the palm of your hand. So, when you go through, let's say, the first level of 1 puk, the second of 2 puk, and the third of 3 puk, you look at which minds you've fallen asleep in, where you're not able to interact with certain minds. So it's purely technical work that reflects on everything that happens to you. And so, when you've worked through these levels, the first pukuras are precisely responsible for interacting with the outside world. I built it. This merging with all your energies, and each energy is responsible for something specific. I will talk more about this later as we go through these levels. First level, second, third, awakened. I let it all in. Not just pulled it in, but really let it in, it flows into you. I entered the outside world. I stepped out of the practice and entered the outside world, which looks at you differently. You look with your eyes what you want, where you want to go. Go there. Come here. And you're like, wait, what do I do with this? What do I have left here? So, there are already some moments left where you either allow yourself to move quickly, or you're still sitting and pondering. And no, it's not brave enough in all of this. Well, over time, that courage comes and the person just starts to wildly chase all their whims. Desires, that's how everything gets realized. Somewhere fails. It's not working. Let's say a person encounters a problem. He wants it, but he doesn't go for it. You can dig deep and persistently at the level of the psyche, at the level of energy, and you can sit back in your yantra configuration, run through all of them. In the mind, like, this mind isn't lighting up for me. She doesn't want to interact with me. This energy can't enter me. 1, focus on it. It's not without reason. Why did this happen? For me, it doesn't matter at all. Just focus on it, and in the state of acceptance, I don't need to forgive my parents. I don't need to forgive, the thugs who kicked me around all my childhood. I don't need to work through my past lives or anything like that. All of that is going straight to the trash. It's just too long. I don't need to do anything about it. So the primary causality, that is the vibration of reality, the configuration of all this, it's right in front of me. And now I'm aligning with it. Individual personal relationships, that is the state of acceptance, revealing it and fully letting it into yourself. Technical work.
Oh, let's do this. Yeah, right now this analogy is very clear. I hope you also understand what's happening and write in the comments how clear this is to you. Now let's take an example. Let's go. We were talking about like an apartment for 200 million rubles, and there are apartments for like 2 billion rubles. Yes? So I want to understand, using the same example, what do people say who work through the psyche and through energy? They say the following. You can't just jump from an apartment worth 2 million rubles to one worth 2 billion, because your personality simply won't accept it and won't believe it.
Absolutely right.
So I want to understand at the level of your work, what does it look like if we take...
Very simple. So why am I talking about Elon Musk and people like him? They are a reflection of those configurations of consciousness where reality allows them to exist. Yeah, anywhere. I'm sure that when Bezos said he was going to create a space corporation, he actually started doing it. His consciousness allows it. But if we take an ordinary person, their resources and configuration wouldn't suffice. Naturally, he would just simply get crushed there. He wouldn't survive at all. His resources won't be enough. His configuration won't support any of this. When a person doesn't go through their past lives in a technical way, it's like I don't know there. In 50 or 51 lives, I committed murder. So in this life, I'm going to suffer. Until all of this is out of his head, it's just madness to live like that. You'd want to hang yourself, you just don't know. Until all of this is out of his head, it's just madness to live like that. You'll want to hang yourself, you just don't know. If you just have nothing else to do, yeah, you can just complain about your whole life. I'm compensating for something, like everything is just too slow. This does not provide any opportunities to get what you want. The mind, yes. There are 200 million, 2 billion. You need to work through it. You should have this, you should have that. No, you just need to have intensity. The other one is Yantra. It's mobility. It's fiery nature. How can we increase this mobility? Yes, directly, without intermediaries, without raising huge amounts of heavy layers. Look, there are, for example, Shakti that are responsible solely for the physical body. There are Shakti that are responsible for you as a conglomerate of psychological traits, meaning your temperament, character, and personality. So, there are Shakti that are responsible for that energetic configuration, and there are Shakti that are responsible for the possibilities in this life. There are all the blessings, all the riches, all the siddhis, all of that is already above the body, meaning, yes, these layers and the layers go even further.
So they are simply higher in vibrations, not further from the body, because the body is denser in vibrations.
Of course, yes, but they manifest all levels, meaning they represent this entire hologram.
It's like she's in volume.
Of course, yes. And so, when a person, again, the Shakti that are responsible for the Kula, that is for the family, the Shakti that are responsible for all the mantras. Can you imagine you're sitting there chanting all these mantras 1,000 million times? Or do you just take this mind that is responsible for this vibration that is responsible for all the mantras? You work with it completely, giving yourself without intermediaries, meaning you're not looking for some Shakti that will pass on the mantras. You don't jerk your body when you need to awaken all these mantras. You don't wait. While the energy synchronizes to connect with this sound, la 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 la. And now the energy has connected. Finally it worked, meaning the mantra has awakened. No, are you taking the energy? This hidden part of the universe that is responsible for this, that manifests it here, you just ignite it, directing your attention there, your consciousness flows there, you connect with it, it has manifested, it has lit up. And when you tell yourself, okay, I need to go there, you look at your configuration of consciousness, at your body, at your Shri Yantra, and you think, my intensity, my Yantra doesn't match the place and the people who are there. Their Yantras are burning much stronger. Mine, what should I do? I need to sit down and practice and ignite my Yantra to the same level as theirs. As soon as I manage to do this, I'll get that apartment for 2 billion. It doesn't matter at all how.
And so in the practice of the people you worked with, this, what's it, hours? These are weeks. These are years. This. You understand, right? What I mean, it's clear that it depends on different starting conditions for everyone. That's obvious. It's about how much you need it.
That's when I didn't just tell this story for no reason. When Shan said, I will pass on this Yantra, it hit me so hard, all the arguments that we need to wait were simply dismissed. That we need to wait were simply dismissed. So I went to him and said, I'm dismissing all the arguments. I know that right now you can list all sorts of problems, reasons why I shouldn't go there. I just won't agree to that.
And I ended up on it. I agree. I just want, to do it practically. Let's say a person goes to the gym and he says there, I want to lift 100 kilograms. How long it take me? The coach says, listen, well, how are you going to train? How are you going to eat? How are you going to be set up? But it's obvious to everyone that in one day, going from lifting 40 kilograms to 100, well, according to the laws of physics, he can't just jump that high. Is there some kind of time, well, not exactly a scale, but some kind of conditions? Or that doesn't exist there either. What do you think?
It all depends on how much a person really needs it. Here, they want to lift 100 kilo but can't reach the gym. They want an athletic figure, bought a membership, and stopped there. I know people who say, I really want an athletic figure. And for that, I actually bought a gym membership, and that's truly all I've done. There are such people. There are people who, for example, say, I want to come to you for Yantra. I'm like, okay, that's it. And that's where it all ends. There are people, yes, and there are people who say, I want this, I want that. I completely understand that right now I have no idea at all. How do I get that? But I'm ready to do what will allow me to achieve that. What does it even matter to a person? And the question arises, are you ready to train in order for you to make it happen? The person says, I'm ready to train, what should I do? I say, just do this. And if he starts doing that, everything will be fine for him.
That's clear. How much time does he need?
And that depends on how much effort he puts into it. Because in the physical world, the dependence on time is very strong. Physics, it's woven right into the timeline. In the realm of consciousness, there are no time limits. There are no time segments. It all depends on how well a person has dealt with such qualities. Like self-pity, how capable he is of being impeccable. Impeccable, that's also quite an abstract word, but there's some understanding, yes. Disciplined, impeccable, ruthless. Well, if he has these qualities, and the fire in the heart, so he must possess the skill of unconditional love. Because if you don't have unconditional love within you, you won't let a single step into yourself. You won't be able to do anything with it. So it's a very peculiar kind of love for oneself at the level of the physical body, of the mental, energetic, and your consciousness. This energy of love vibrations connects everything into one. So there must be qualities. The qualities a person has determine how quickly they can handle all of this. Our attention is the most important resource. The greatest value we have for understanding the level of consciousness. If our attention is being pulled in different directions, if our attention is distracted, if there are constantly some, well, like in Zilon, the pendulums will constantly try to parasitize and nothing good will come of it. Let's talk about the pillar skill.
What is this practice? What are you going to do? How will this help people prepare for Shri Yantra?
In the tradition, there is a term Jivan Mukta, or twice born. A person born in the physical realm is born into the energetic realm. This is a special energetic configuration that is very rarely explained clearly anywhere. I can't say that it's very secret. I also can't say that it's easy to find information about it on the internet. But with these terms, you can generally get oriented somehow. This is a practice where the configuration changes of the second attention body. Just like you can pump up the physical body with muscles, you can also pump up the psyche, yes? Another value, another strength, value systems, other strengths. It's interesting how thinking relates to this. Yes, 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 that's right. The same thing, you can pump up the little one. If it's possible, then you can change the configuration to one that is created by a completely different being. If we're going to be honest about it, what's the essence? We have energy centers, and they are located deep within the body. Each center is responsible for a specific interaction with the surrounding reality. Basically, in our everyday life, we only use 7 centers. First, you can find this, survival. Second, it's about relationships with genetic relatives. The third is willful relationships, arguments, conflicts, proving, persuading, educating, all of that. Conflicts, proving, persuading, educating. That's all. The fourth center, which are often confused with the heart and the soul. No, the fourth center is neither the heart nor the soul. It's just an energy center that is responsible for your personality. For me, for the fact that you deserve, at least in your classes. The fifth center is about the ability to be heard when conveying information. The sixth center is intuition. The seventh center is creativity, creating something new. And mainly we only use these centers if a person has some problems in these areas. For example, if they had a fight with their parents, their second center starts to get spasms and energy can no longer flow out of it. We can't break the center itself because it is by its nature infinite, but we can surround it with constraining structures so much so that it stops shining. Here, if you had a fight with your parents, the first center doesn't shine, we feel down, we don't want to live. Depression, the first center gets closed off with constraining structures. Why doesn't it shine, all of this? Because you can pretty quickly distort, break, ruin, and close off all these centers within yourself. That's it. We've arrived. How are you going to live on if your centers barely release energy? The centers don't release energy. The physics starts to wither. You're lacking resources in the physical body. There's not enough resource in the physical body, and the person starts sliding. Yes, at some point he'll say, all right, that's it. I don't want to carry these burdens inside me anymore. I forgive both of them. I do recognize that I have the right, I have a voice. That is, a person somehow plays with this, but it is still only 7 centers. And still, every person who comes into this space and at this time has some very strong pain point. Someone, for example, might be strong-willed and tough, but if their father told them, you're not my son, that's it, they break. Centers shine and overflow. Small irritation can cause collapse. Other centers used. But let's be honest, again, some slightest irritation, the slightest breakdown, and it can all fall apart like a house of cards. We have other centers besides these 7 that we hardly use. The first minor center is located here at the level of the thighs. The second minor center is located in the space between the knees. The third minor center is at the level of the ankles. It's down there. Who uses them? Mainly these centers are used by people Deutschu, or perhaps they practice some martial arts, or sailors who are constantly pumped up. So these centers are responsible for standing on the ground. I'm sure you've come across this kind of perception. Cosmic system. You've probably encountered this kind of perception. A person who, for example, has practiced Aikido for about 10 years, or some kind of wushu Greco-Roman wrestling, they are here. Well, it's as if it's dug into the ground. That is, it's impossible to push it over. Rooted, yes, rooted, as if they had grown into the earth, or the sailors who are constantly in storms across the oceans. They also walk here as if I don't know the runes on their legs. They just grow into the ground. What is this? This also works with energy. It specifically involves the minus energy centers. We have these centers in the physical body, and below 108 centers, thousands, millions, and even infinity at the top. Not many know there are up to 108 centers. And now look, we have not only these centers in the area of the physical body, but also below 108 centers, 8,000 centers, a million, 8 centers, infinity at the very top. It's all the same. We don't use them. Few people know that there are up to the 108th center, up to the 107th center. Everything happens without our attention, without our participation. Everything is affected by energy structures called egregors. So we use the egregor while we are here with the family using these centers, and the egregor uses us up to the 107th center. Even though we don't even realize it, we don't even suspect it. So besides the 107, there's the 108th, and the egregor can't reach the 108th. Not at all. And we can, because this is our body of the second attention, this is our body of flow. There, the 8,000 center, a million, 8 centers, we don't even know they exist because you won't find this knowledge on the internet. So what is a fiery table? We take these centers that we haven't managed to break in our everyday lives, the ones that haven't been used, and we start to release them. They start to ignite, and our everyday life in general has no effect on them. This is where the overall energy power starts. It's like, a long tube with a ton of little holes. And you start to push gas through it under pressure. And this gas, when it comes out, can ignite at some point. And so when we start to accelerate our centers downwards, upwards, and let these be as well, yeah, someone is compressed somewhere, but that's not important for now. We accelerate all these centers, accelerate, 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 and reach such a level of intensity. On the periphery, they start to connect with each other as IF, to connect, to synthesize. Right now, all physicists are chasing nuclear fusion, which means connecting and releasing energy during the merging. We also need to accelerate our centers to such a level of intensity so that energy can start to be released during their merging. Centers don't just connect like that. They pass through each other as if they don't see one another. But if you reach a certain intensity, they start to interact with each other. As a little turbulence starts to appear, it keeps appearing, and at some point it all surfaces. It bursts into one single fiery pillar, an orange-white pillar, like a million centers up, a million centers down, and these 7 too, everything bursts into one single configuration, and at that moment you won't be able to find those centers anymore. They just get smeared out. And in this configuration, yes, you can still be mentally struck and feel like, I don't want to live. I don't want to, yes, no, I actually want to live, because your center, it cannot to give in to your mental reaction. because this fiery configuration makes you invulnerable, even if you continue to be mentally vulnerable out of inertia. So your energy stops reacting to these jabs from the outside world. And when this fiery pillar is burning, you step into the outside world. Yeah, like, oh, Dad said something bad about me. You can't manage anything, you can't get offended, you can't shut down, you just can't. How can you start to worry about that? It feels like you become bulletproof. So your mind is trying to tell you, are you going to feel bad now? Come on, start suffering. Yes, now I'll start to suffer. I'll start now just a little bit more and I'll start. Yeah, no, I'm not going to start suffering. I'd rather go do something else. You just can't be pierced at all. And in this configuration, when a person becomes bulletproof to all sorts of life circumstances, even there where the mind is still, I haven't had a chance to get my bearings yet. When these negative centers and positive centers in the unified energetic fire simply cover you, they cover you, even where you're ready to be struck, ready to spasm. When you're in this configuration and you go to the level of the yantra, everything comes easily for you. It all works out. You're not falling asleep there. With every step, you're playing. You have a ton of resources. You have a lot of opportunities for transformation and change. Any transformations require a lot of resources, but you change yourself, not the people around you. And that's why it's structured this way. The course, even if a person says, I'm only going to the yantra, I say, hold on, here's a gift. 2 weeks of the fiery pillar and work on your energy. But you can go to the fiery pillar without the yantra. If a person says, I've completed the first level, the second, what's next? I say, next is the third level. Fiery energy, please come. Well, if a person says, for example, I only want the third pillar. I've already announced it loud and clear that, guys, here's the second level. I could have done this for you. You'll have to do the third level together with me. So from my side, I'll do everything to make sure you succeed.
Is this online or recorded? Online conference?
Online conference. Our energy, our configuration, our fields, they will connect in these processes. Yes, that's why I'm asking. Yes, I will, of course. I'll be demonstrating all of this on myself. How this is structured on your second attention body, on your energy body. So here you need to understand that if at the second level I said, okay, just come and do what I'm telling you, I have enough skill to break the cocoon off you. To break the cocoon off you, this crystallized structure, from here on, each person is responsible for achieving this state. In any case, everyone who comes there will receive these settings. They will get a clear mechanism on how to do this. But if a person doesn't have enough of their own skills, because they skipped the first level, the second level, they skipped it and they don't want to deal with it. If he lacks skills, he'll repeat. He'll have to repeat the course on your own and still push yourself to reach that burst of energy at your own pace. So this is already the stage where a person has much greater responsibility towards themselves than in the previous one. This also needs to be understood. It also needs to be realized. And I once again emphasize this. Let's come for practice. I will create favorable conditions, but we will practice together. I'll do everything for you here. I say I'll show you everything. I will create the most favorable conditions, but we will practice together.
Friends, today we had a very difficult topic and really little is said about it on the internet. And to understand it and actually to take this sacred knowledge, to pull it out of Anton and present it to you, because many things, I understand what the difficulty is. Many things cannot be conveyed so simply in words, but we tried. Please write in the comments how clear it was for you, how useful and interesting it was. And for those who resonate with the practices we've talked about, you can find information about them in the description. Thank you for a very intense and meaningful conversation. To be honest, I can really feel it. Well, as long as we've been sitting here, I can really feel this flow inside. I don't know if you can feel it through the camera, but I think you can feel it too. Overall, it was extremely interesting. It's great to visit.
Thanks for the chat.
Do you want to unlock your inner strength and learn to manage energy? The course, Power of Consciousness 1. Practical energy will provide you with tools to improve health, develop intuition, and gain a deeper understanding of the world. Join and start changing your life right now. Link in the description.